Métis culture is connected to the land. Ours is a culture that is grounded in that connection to the land and to all living creatures with whom we share this land. As Métis, we show our respect by learning the movements and the cycles of nature. This is often a lesson that is shared amongst Métis family members, a way to preserve and transmit that culture for future generations. Métis culture can be a form of healing. Trapping brings us back out onto the land. It affords us the opportunity to travel our historic waterways, to live out on the land in peace and in a good way with the natural world around us. Kim Hodgson demonstrates her commitment to her Métis culture by embracing the land, learning about the animals, the plants, the trees, and the historic waterways.
My name is Kim Hodgson. I'm a descendant of the Red River settlement. My grandfather came over from Manitoba in the early 1900s to live and work in BC. And my father's name is Lloyd Hodgson, and he grew up in Hedley and Karameas in BC, in Barkerville. I'm a very proud Métis woman. I've been very connected to the land, and I believe that it's a huge part of our heritage and culture. And my whole family's been connected to that. It's been very meaningful in my life, and I love sharing my stories about that culture. I embraced the connection to the land by going out onto the trapline, learning how to hunt, fish, process food, and just really experience it. I absolutely believe that it's a blood memory. It almost felt like I didn't have to have anybody show it to me, like it just came from inside, and it always made me feel like I had a purpose and that I was, doing the right thing and sharing those stories with my sons. I still experience my culture through living it every day, harvesting when I can, producing art, and telling stories. And I love telling stories to the children and the families, and letting them experience that through me, and hoping that they'll be able to share their stories as well. Connecting to the land is probably the most rewarding thing for me. I just feel like I'm at peace and I'm where I'm supposed to be when I'm on the land. I've been really fortunate, but also really made a concerted effort to make it happen, to experience that. Out on the trapline, I'd be gone for 3-4 months, one time 6 months, experiencing that at a very, very traditional way. Building the cabins, living in tents, using canoes, traveling the rivers, living around all the animals, the ones I hunted as well as bears, and harvesting the fish. So when I was 18 years old, I made my first trip up to northern BC in the Yukon, and just fell in love with it, and a year later moved up there and stayed. And my first jobs were in the mining camps. My father was very connected to the land with the mining and prospecting. He was always out on the land prospecting. And from there I got jobs in the fish camps and hunting camps for outfitters, and then made the move out onto a trap line, and I would go out for weeks or maybe a month or two at a time and learn about it, and then fully committed to going out for 3-4 months at a time onto the trap lines. And so that was my journey as far as getting out there and doing that part of my life. But the thing about going out on the trap line, it's just not just about the trapping. You learn about the land, you understand the animals that you're trapping, but all the animals and all the plants, trees, the waterways around you, everything that's involved in that in your environment, including how to harvest what trees to build a cabin, and wood to burn and how to access clean water through the ice in the winter, and what foods to eat. It's been just it's a very much day-to-day, involves your whole life. So a trapline can be privately owned or leased, and it's an area that's designated and set aside, usually established through the watersheds. And so there's definitely, through the hunting and fishing and trapping synopsis, rules about what animals you can harvest and when you can be there and what structures you can build on the trapline. So on the trapline, depending on the area, there'll be more or less of certain animals. The areas that I traplined, there was a lot of marten and wolverine, some lynx, and fox, coyote, wolves, ermine, and squirrel. So I predominantly trapped marten. At that time, you would get the best value for that size of fur, and it's a smaller animal, so it was easy to pack. And because most of the time it was by snowshoe or ski or just walking on the trails, so I could pack the animals, and it's quicker to skin and easier to ship out to auction. So I would go out typically in October or as late as November. So animals come into prime when the weather turns really cold, and to get the best valuable fur, the fur needs to be in prime. So from about early December to February. So you have a 2 or 3 month window when the fur is good to be trapped. Otherwise, when it warms up and the animals start losing their fur, you will not be able to sell them. Most trap lines that I went to were very remote. There are trap lines around communities, but to be able to get to the, to be really remote and have that wilderness experience and to be able to get the most furs, the trap lines I would fly into by helicopter or plane. So helicopter to some of the more remote places where you couldn't get a ski plane or a float plane in. Otherwise, I'd go in early enough before the ice was on the lake and use a float plane. For me, going out the trapline was definitely the way of life and wanted to experience that. However, living up north, it was a way to make an income for the winter. I did jobs with fisheries and a fish camp in the summer, and then so in the winter was a time to be able to make some money selling furs. So I would ship them out to fur auctions or meet a broker in Whitehorse or another town to auction the furs off. The most challenging part was facing some of the fears I had, just really facing reality of what it was like and what I would have to learn, and really when you're out there you have no one else to count on but yourself. You have to understand why you're doing it, because you're taking things from the land. You have to have that respect and be in a good place to do it. And the way I would deal with it was by writing in my journals. A daily journal to be able to give me a chance to reflect on what I'd done and what I could do better and what it meant to me. A large part of my Métis culture and tradition is the artwork, and I express my artwork through the beads. And so I've self-taught myself to work with beads, and it's been quite a journey for me. And I just love that part of connecting the land to the beads, and the land inspires me in my artwork. And I know that it reflects the area where you live, the materials that you work with, and the experiences that you have. The most rewarding part for me being on the trapline was just being out on the land and being able to learn as much as possible and experience that peace of mind that's on the land and being connected to it, and being able to provide for myself by being on the land. So that was the most meaning to me.